Organised criminals will always look for innovative ways to achieve their aims. So it's a new method that we've uncovered here. No doubt it potentially works elsewhere. But given the unique circumstances where we accept UK visas, which in turn are not allowed for other European Union nations or Schengen countries, the network in this case availed themselves of that potential gap and exploited it. But we were onto them and managed to identify their what we term as their modus operandi, the way they worked about the whole operation.
This investigation was initiated in November 2018 and it's taken until now to come to fruition. Can you give us an idea of why that is with an operation of this magnitude?
You want to wrap up as many of the members of the organised criminal network as possible. It's no point in just getting one and then letting the others get off scot-free and for them to exploit other ways and continue with their criminal activity. So you want to cast the nets as widely as possible to wrap up entirely that network. And it also has a bearing that the fact that our surveillance operation was restricted to 2 days a week because of our connecting travel arrangements with, or rather operators with Morocco, where the migrants were coming from. You have to gather evidence, you've got to ensure that that's tight, you've got to identify individuals, and then you've got to present evidence for further deliberation by the judicial system for them to consider European investigation orders, as in the case of this particular operation, European arrest warrants and so forth. So at the same time as our detectives and our counterparts are working towards building, there's a lot of machinery behind the scenes that puts everything together.
What are some of the roles of the people who've been arrested? Are the ringleaders among them?
Certainly. We had facilitators that met people at the airports, at the ports. You had people that were drivers, you had taxi drivers, you had people that lodgers that would keep, rather people that would afford lodging to the migrants. It's a complex network. Everybody knew what their role was, and that was one of the reasons why this has become protracted and it took so long for us to identify all those pieces of the big jigsaw.
And can you tell us the suspected roles of the 3 people specifically arrested in Gibraltar?
These people are subject to court proceedings. At least one of them has already been extradited. The other 2 are facing extradition proceedings here at the courts in Gibraltar. So therefore I think I can't really comment too much on their involvement. Suffice to say that once it's out in open court, I'm sure that you will be able to pick up their participation yourself.
What have been the lessons learned in terms of, for example, threats to national security?
Organised criminality, in whatever shape or form it comes, has the potential to destabilize communities and nations, and therefore we have to keep an open eye always. And like I said in my press release, organised criminality is not restricted to localities. It is transborder, transnational, and therefore we have to be alive to the threats that poses both to us and to any other nations, including the nation that the migrants in this case come from. So yes, lessons learned. There's many, and there's no doubt that we are going through them with a fine-tooth comb. Not least the question of how border controls are carried out. No one's perfect, there's no perfect system, but we need to tighten up ourselves in terms of how criminals can potentially exploit all entry points to Gibraltar.
And one thing that you've highlighted with this type of crime, human trafficking, is the human suffering involved.
Indeed, and they are the true victims. They get exploited, they get swindled of money, and these victims have to rely on responsible jurisdictions, of which Gibraltar now is very prominently featuring, to safeguard that from developing any further. We just cannot shy. In the same way as we are at the forefront of drug trafficking in the Straits, we have to combat it in any other way that criminality reaps its ugly head.